Okay, we are on Daf Memhei. No, much further than that. We are on Mem Nun Aleph on the base. Allah Gimel. Anshe Chater Shevanche Mir Pesas. Are you actually going to be a Silus on Sunday? Is that the Maskana? 4:30 in the afternoon is my first year. 4:30. There's still 65, right? Anchi Chatzav Anchi Mir Pesas. Nun Alpha Base. Anchi Chatzav Anchi Mir Pesas. You have the people of the courtyard and the people of a porch. Sheshochav Lo Eruvin. They did not make an Eruv together. They should have, but they didn't. Anything which is more than 10 tefachim high in the yard belongs to the porch. Anything which is less than 10 tefachim high in the yard belongs to the chutzner. Therefore, if you have a hollow well, a cellar or a stone, whose rim or whose sides are 10 tefachim high, that belongs to the porch. If it's less than 10 tefachim high, l'chatzer belongs to the courtyard. When is that true? When it's near the porch. But if the well is distant from the porch, even 10 tefachim high, l'chatzer belongs to the courtyard. What is considered to be close enough to the porch, that's not a problem. Anything which is in 4 tefachim of the porch. Okay? Says more. By the way, I wanted to make a comment totally irrelevant to tomorrow. I have noticed that since we came to the yeshiva, I have not fallen asleep while giving shiur. Have you noticed that? You. I don't know about you guys. That's right. But I have not fallen asleep. And they used the night call. I don't know, because it was more less well ventilated. I don't know exactly what. But you sure? Yeah. So it was too stuffy, so I fell asleep by saying shiur. But so far I haven't done that yet. Huh? Okay. I'm not sure what they were doing while I was sleeping. Alright, I guess we're all sleeping together. So it says more, below shel tachtonim. Now here's a very, very big chiddush Yerushalmi says. Oh, it's not against the Bible, it's just a chiddush in itself. Below shel tachtonim, look, this well, which is in the courtyard, 10 tefachim high, from a monetary standpoint, belongs to people who live in the yard. It belongs to them. Yet, since it's more than 10 tefachim high, it becomes vis-a-vis Hilchos Shabbos divorced from them, and becomes now the halachic property, again, not Choshe Mishpah wise or Chaim wise. Becomes the property of the people who live in the porch, even though it doesn't belong to them. There's a very, very big distinction drawn here between ownership, in the classic Choshe Mishpah sense, and accessibility in the Hilchos Shabbos or Chaim sense. Okay, is that clear? But? Beneficial ownership, that's right. So it says, Marvelo shel tachtonim, Rabbi Yehuda says, even though it belongs to the below, this teaches us, those merits, Churbas Ruven betoch Chatzer Shimon. Let's say Ruven owns a Churba. He owns a ruin in Shimon's Chatzer, right? He owns a ruin in Shimon's Chatzer. The Shimon mishtamish ba, and Shimon is using it. Churbas Ruven b'Chatzer Shimon. And in Shimon's Chatzer, there's a churba, right? But it belongs to Ruvain. Nonetheless, in Shimon's mishtamish b'Kmi Shelo, so Shimon uses it, therefore it's his. It's as if it's his. Again, what do you call it? Beneficial ownership? The beneficial ownership is Shimon's, even though it belongs to Ruvain, because it's a churba. Ruvain doesn't live there. He owns it, but it's a Shimon's Chatzer, and therefore, vis-a-vis Hilchos Shabbos, it belongs to Shimon. For Otzah on Shabbos. Right now, only discussing Otzar on Shabbos. That benefit. Okay? Says more Pshita Hada Milsa. The following thing which you're about to say is simple. L'zeh Pesach, l'zeh Pesach. Let's say they both have access to a certain area with a Pesach, with an opening. In other words, two people live on either side, say, of a churva, of a chotzer, of a well. Both have had doorways leading into the well. Okay? They didn't make an area with each other, so Shnei Masurim, neither of them can carry. Right? Mina Bayish Shabei, well, actually, I didn't finish the sentence. The scenario is given here. You have two chatzeros, a house in the middle, and you have a Pesach going from chatzer, one chatzer to the house, and for the other chatzer to the house. So both of them master each other because they both have equal access. They didn't make an area with each other, so therefore they're both forbidden to carry. Okay? What if you have two courtyards, house between the two of them? One of them can throws things up towards the house because the house is more than 10 tefachim above his courtyard. The other tosses things down because he thought the house is more than 10 tefachim below his courtyard. So we have courtyard, and a house in the middle on the slope, let's say. So what's the halach in that case? Asura she'ena ice cream. Shmuel amar shilshul mutar shu kedarko. The guy who can toss down, he's okay, because that's kedarko. Now he doesn't explain why it's kedarko. That's because of gravity, right? That's you lob things down, you don't toss things up, right? So that's kedarko, and he's allowed to carry from his chutzner into the house. Uzrika asura, the guy who has to toss up into the house, he can't carry because that's not kedarko. She'ena kedarko. Rav amar lo asaklum. Rav says it's not true. Neither of them can do anything. Lo asaklum means that it's tossing both of them because lobbing up and tossing down, or tossing up and lobbing down, are both equally shlo kedarko. Okay? Says more masisa pliga Rav. It seems to be our Mishnah argues of Rav because it says in our Mishnah kol shegava asar tefachim mir peses. Anything which is more than 10 tefachim high belongs to the courtyard. Pachas mikan, if it's less than 10 tefachim, l'chatzer belongs to the chatzer. Says the Gemara, well, in this case, right, we're talking about one guy. The guy in the mirpeses lobs down. The other guy, the guy in the chatzer, tosses up, right? So. No, it's saying our Mishnah argues a Rav.
First Rav, now it says low also low.
Right. And our Mishnah gives it to the guy who can toss down, like Shmuel. Because our Mishnah gives it to the mirpeses, right? You have a well, which is in essence between the chotzer and the mirpeses, right? So who gets the right in our Mishnah to use it? The guys in mirpeses. Okay, so it's a kasha from our Mishnah on Rav, right? Is that obvious? So it says more. If it's a certain mirpeses, pachim mikan l'chotzer. Says more low. No. I'm sorry. Lo lezeb is riko, lezeb is shilshul imas nisa. Isn't our Mishnah talking about where one guy tosses up, one guy lobs down? So it's a right against Rab because we see it given to the guy who can lob down. Says the Gemara, no. Masisa b'stok shloshet tefachim hilal yoina. A chiddush. Our Mishnah, says Rab, is when the well is within 3 tefachim of the mirpeses. It's got to be within 3 tefachim of the mirpeses. If it's within 3 tefachim, that's when they give the mirpeses. Not because of Shmuel's for that he tossed down easier than lobbing up. No. You lob down easier than tossing up. No, not because that's why, but rather because it's within 3 tefachim of the mirpeses. So, Masisa b'toch shlosh tefachim al yoina shilu malam etzor tefach at the same time that it's more than 10 tefachim above the bottom one. So now there's a lot of different mefarshim here. The Korban Eda says lav dafka 3 tefachim. So as long as it's closer to the mirpeses than to the chotzer, right? That which Rav said that where lezeb is rika, lezeb is shisha, one's tossing up and the other's tossing down, that they answer each other is when it's not closer to either one of them. It's equidistant from both sides. But where it's closer to one side, so we go after the one which it's closer to. So here that it's within 3 Tvachim of the Mirpesses is not necessary, but rather it's got to be closer to the Mirpesses than it is to the Chatzar. That's his pshat. The Nir, who Lieberman brings down, says that he changes gears, so from 3 Tvachim to 10 Tvachim. Says as long as it's with the wells within 10 Tvachim of the Mirpesses, so it's considered to be part and parcel of the Mirpesses. Lieberman himself says that the 3 Tvachim is dafka. It's got to be less than 3 Tvachim. Why? Because we're going by easy usage. And only if it's within 3 Tvachim is it easy usage. If it's more than 3 Tvachim, it's not easy usage. So that's why it has to be, the well has to be within 3 Tvachim. If it's not easy usage, Rabbi Isai, says Lieberman, then we revert back to ownership. And who owns the well? We said before, the guys below. So that's why it has to be within 3 Tvachim in order to get easy usage, and that supersedes the actual ownership. The Reb Chaim Kanievsky finally says a very simple pshat. Says, why is it have to be within 3 Tvachim? Because if the well is within 3 Tvachim, Mirpesses, it's like a Pesach. It's better than Zrika. Even though you're actually tossing down and pulling up, but that's really like a Pesach. Because of Lovud. Lovud means that they're close enough together, they consider to be one, and therefore it's if there's an opening from the porch directly down into the well. Why do they ignore the obvious? Because it's you. You have to understand the mentality that unfortunately approach the Yerushalmi with. You do, right?
I don't know. It says like right away the first thing is
Yeah. It took everybody else a long time to come up with that. Yes. Okay.
My other thought is that 3 Tvachim is less than 4 Tvachim.
That's the Gemara is going to talk about. The Gemara is going to say that. In fact, the bottom of the page. So it says more, Ma pli and Rav Shmuel b'shaveh. Rav says that which we argue, I and you. This is why the Nir says it's whatever is closer. And Lav Dafka 3 Tvachim or Karmaneda also, because it says Rav and Shmuel, their argument is only where it's precisely equal. And one guy's throwing up, the other guy's throwing down. The Rav and Shmuel said they're both aser, and Shmuel said we go after guys throwing down. But this is talking about the Mirpesses here in this case is closer to the well is closer to Mirpesses, and that's why we give it to the Mirpesses. Okay, Hayasham Churba. Now, what if there's a Churba between two yards? A ruin between 2 yards. Rabbi Yochanan says you give the Churba to whoever owns it. Now, Lieberman explains, isn't that Pashat? I mean, you obviously give it to the owner. So he says, no. He says, even if one of them, it's a little bit more difficult for one of them to use it than the other. But between 2 courtyards, but one of them is harder access. One of them is easier access. Nonetheless, Rabbi Yochanan knows we give it to the guy who owns it, despite the fact that he has somewhat harder access. So, before we said access is everything. In this case, it's a churba which is between 2 chatzers. So it's a matter of degree to such an extent they're willing to forego the fact that it's easier for one and harder the other and follow the ownership. Okay? Where there's Mirpesses above a well, which is in a chatzer, so then it's much more of a difference. It's much more marked difference. So then in that case we go after, whoever has the easier usage. But here, when it's almost the same, it's just there's a slight difference in usage, so then we go after the ownership. Okay? Says the Gemara, Ad Kedun, and now the Gemara is going to explain that in great detail. Ad Kedun mishtamish b'churba derech pischa. That's only if the owner at least has some access through his door to his churba. What if he's using it through a window? Well, Rabbi Yaakov Shem Rabbi Yehuda said afilu kein is the churba l'balad. Even still, you give it to its owner. Rabbi Elazar, the Reb Chaim Kanievsky takes out the Rabbi Shimon, because obviously now Rabbi Elazar's son of Rabbi Shimon the Tana, because everybody else in the Gemara here is not Mora. Rabbi Elazar Shem Rabbi Yeshua said, and besides, Rabbi Yeshua was after Elazar Rabbi Shimon. Oh, he's not arguing. It's a new case, by the way. Hayu Shalosh. Now, this is the case. I have paper. Here I have. It's okay. Here's a Churba. churba, 3 in a row. And then you have a bayis and a bayis. Okay? Hayu shalosh, there are 3 churbas. 1, 2, 3. Zeh mishtamish churba der piso, and there's a Pesach over here. And there's a Pesach over here. So each guy uses a churba adjacent to him through the Pesach. Zeh mishtamish b'churba der piso. Right, this is a ruin. They use it for warehousing usually, things like that. Not for living, obviously, but for warehousing. The churba. Okay, because it's sheltered, not livable. It's not a dwelling at all. A churba might consider to be a dwelling place. Okay, if it's used for storage, proper storage, it might be considered to be like a dira. But it's better than a karpa. Okay? What? Yeah, but you can still store stuff there. Yeah. So storage might be sufficient usage, and we're going to discuss that later on. Okay? So in any event, so this guy can use this churba through his opening. So this guy can use his churba through his opening. So it's true in the middle one is also, because they both are equal in the middle one. And they didn't make these guys didn't make a name with each other. If the middle one belongs to both of them, or they both have access to it. But if this middle one belongs to for the marketplace, this guy uses his. This guy uses uses his and this one. Everybody, now all the Rishonim ask, what do you mean? Why? So the Rashba says, it's talking about a case where this guy, let's say, whichever one of them, has more ishtamshus. Even though he doesn't own it, but neither does the other guy. A third party owns it. So if we give, whichever of the two of them uses the middle churba more, we give him the middle churba.
That's assuming there's access to it.
Yeah. But even that access is right, assuming there's access. Yeah. If say here there's a chalon. Because so it's less of an access. But they both have the chalon. Because if one had a Pesach, not just the chalon, that would give him greater access, and he would be the one which has access. Now, Reb Meir Simcha, Reb Chaim Kanievsky he changes the girsa. Instead of Shalecha min Ashuk, and this middle one belongs to him from Mark, but he says Haya me Eshel Echad mehen of them. And of course, then, if it belongs to one of them, we give him the churba. So I don't know. It seems a little bit. So now his girsa change. It takes away the problem of why I should give it to one over the other. We give it to him because it's his, but then it's no chiddush. So it's partial. So I don't see what he gains. Okay, I'm Rabbi Yechon. That which stands and that which is open joined together to make 4 tefachim. Right? If you have, this is the well, right? And this is, let's say, a tefach, and this is a tefach, and there's 2 tefachim, and it's all joined together to make 4 by 4 tefachim. Whether that's true, the Gemara is going to immediately attack it. You have to have more free standing space than open space. So this actually would have to be 1.1 and 1.1, and this would have to be 1.8. To have more standing space. Says Gemara, Rabbi Zira boy, does it mean that it can be eaten like this? Or does it mean that it has to be that in the middle is 1.3? And here's 1.35 and 1.35. In other words, you need that on both sides, right? Both sides are bigger than the whole. Or can it be like this, that together both sides are bigger than the whole? Not each one independently, but only together. Where do we have an nafkamina? What do you remember? Where's an nafkamina in this? Contemporary application. Oh, we have to get out the kicking machine. Tzitzis. You don't remember that? The beged of tzitzis. The shoulders of tzitzis have to be larger than the hole. The question is whether each shoulder pad, so to speak, by itself has to be itself bigger than the hole, or even together bigger than the hole. We're machmir. We hold that each shoulder strap itself has to be bigger than the hole in the middle. Okay, because that's a really Gemara's question here. How do you determine that it's the proper shiur? Right? Is the proper shiur even without? Yeah, the proper shiur even without the having omen ruim mishteit stadim. We need dafka omen ruim mishteit stadim. Both sides should be merubah from the hole. So it says Gemara. Do you have a test in your Gemara? Teach Tarif. What's the next word in your Gemara? It's a type. It's pashut that if all the oimid is on one side, it doesn't work. Right? If let's say it was here on this side, you had 0.1 and then 2. Yeah. You had 2 and here 1.9, that doesn't work. Okay? That's no good. Because we say here, Asi Abir, the high gisa mevatole. Right? The airspace over here and the airspace over here comes as mevato, this. That's overcome, right? So that's definitely no good. Okay? Pshita. And it's partial that at least on one side you have to have more. So this actually is no good if you have 1.1 on each side and 1.8 in the middle. That's no good. At least one side has to be greater than the middle. Meaning this would have to be 1.35, let's say, and this would have to be 1.4, something like that. Okay, I'm not sure, obviously not exact, but you get the idea. The question is whether you have to have on both sides. Is there enough to have on one side greater than the whole, or both sides greater than the whole? That's the more question. Of course, you don't answer it. Rabbi Yirmiyah and Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yitzchak said, "Mishlosha v'arba he must be sick." Our Mishnah is talking about between 3 and 4 tvachim, meaning that that which the Mishnah said that if it's more than 10 tvachim high, you give it to the mirpeses. It's only if the gap between the well and the mirpeses is between 3 and 4 tvachim. If it's pachos mishlosh, if it's less than 3 tvachim distance, afilu pachos miaser, it says yoiser, but it should be even pachos. Afilu pachos miaser mutter. If it's less than that, by the way, Lieberman doesn't change the gears and he works it out, but it's easier to change the gears, especially once we know Lovewood, which Lieberman didn't know. But once you know Lovewood, like Reb Chaim, so if it's less than 3 tefachim between the well and the mirpeses, even if it's lower than 10 tefachim off the ground, it's as if it's connected to mirpeses. So Pasha goes mirpeses, right? Arba, vice versa, if there's more than 4 tefachim between the mirpeses and the well, afilu, even if it's yoyse me'aser, if it's more than 10 tefachim away, it's awesome. Why? Because there's no easy access. And remember, the ownership is the chotzims. So there's no easy access between the porch and the well, because more than 4 tefachim big gap between the two. No easy access, so therefore, you can't give it to the mirpeses. The whole issue is, when do we go after where it's above 10 tefachim, below 10 tefachim? When the distance between the mirpeses and the well is between 3 or 4 tefachim, then it depends. Excuse me, if the well is higher than 10 tefachim, so we give it to the mirpeses, to the porch. If the well is lower than 10 tefachim, then we give it to the yard. Okay? But what if carbonated is a weird shot here? But Lieberman and Reb Chaim learn like the Bnei Moshe. What if the well's got a cover? Then afilu gava kama, even if it's very high, shel tachtoinimi. belongs to lower guys. Why? Because the guys in the porch do not have a good way of getting off the cover. The guys on the ground, they'll stand there and pick up the cover, but guys on the porch, it's hard for them to stretch over and pick up the cover. So if the well is a covered well, no matter how tall it is, it belongs to the guys down in the courtyard. Okay? Amar Rav said, Amar Rebbe. Now Lieberman points out a very cool thing. He says, the name is missing. It's obviously not Rebbe of the Mishnah. It's Amar Rebbe somebody. And the name somehow got deleted from the Gemara. Now, the dim recess of my memory, you have a good memory. In the dim recess of my memory, I think that all the way beginning of Yerushalmi, we once came to a tentative conclusion that there are other people in the Yerushalmi who are called Rebbe,
Yes.
other than Rebbe.
You said that.
Right?
Yeah.
I take it back. Because that's what Lieberman saying. There's a name missing. Right? Right. That's Pasha. That there's a name missing. It's Rabbi somebody. Yes. It was Rabbi somebody, and it was taken away because poor editing. Okay, I'm a Rebbe somebody. Kashain sham naked. That's only if there's no hole. There's a hole in the well, so even if it's covered, the people in their pests can still use it through the well's hole. So therefore, they don't have to have an actual, they don't have to be able to take off the top, and therefore it's still affiliated to them. Okay, halacha. I know saying it's eruv bebeishar b'achsajer rebesis. You put your eruv for the chotzer in the gatehouse, or achsajer means an open area, or mirpesis on a porch. Ain't no eruv. It's not a valid eruv. It's got to be in a house. If somebody lives in one of these areas in the courtyard, you have to take him into account to make an eruv. Ain't no oser. He doesn't ask anybody else. If it's a warehouse for straw, Bebeis HaBoker, a warehouse for cows. Bebeis it's a warehouse for wood. Bebeis HaOtzus, another other kind of warehouse. Harez Eruv, it's a valid Eruv because those are considered to be dwellings. So you can put the bread there. And if somebody lives there, Hador Sham, if somebody happens to live in one of these structures, he has to participate in the Eruv. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, fundamental concept which we haven't had till now. Im Yesham Tvusas Yad Shabbat Bais Ein Roser. The Babais owns objects which are large or muktzah, as the Morah will say, in the house of a tenant. So he doesn't have to make an eruv with the tenant. For instance, if you have a landlord who owns a refrigerator in your house, right, that's called Tfisas Yad, and you don't have to make an eruv with him because he has his ownership interest in your house. Okay? Says when Rabbi Shem Rav said, Chodat Amar Beis Shar Shoyochid. That would you say Beis Shar is not a dwelling place, it's only a Beis Shar of a Yochid, of a solitary individual. In other words, you have a single individual in the Chotzer, and he's got a Beis Shar in his Chotzer. He doesn't need a Beis Shar. Right? The Beis Shar is not a valid Beis Shar. It's not a necessary structure, so therefore it's not going to be a dwelling, and you can't put the eruv there. Our Beis Shar Sharabim raise the eruv, but the Beis Shar of a Rabim, the Rabbim do need a Beis Shar to prevent people from wandering in. Need more protection. So then if you put the eruv there, raise the eruv Adorsham also if it's somebody who lives there and asks it. Now, the Mara Aponim, that's the Pnei Moshe's parish on the bottom, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky changed the Girsa, because the Rambam changes the Girsa. And they say, if a Yochid has a Beis Shar, that's a valid Dira. Why is that? Because not too many people are going to pass through, because the courtyard belongs to an individual, and therefore it's isolated. So if the Beis Shar can serve as a dwelling place, and therefore you can't put the eruv there. But it's a Beis Shar for the Rabbim, many people live in the courtyard, then ain't nobody going to live there because so many people are passing through the gatehouse. So if it's not a valid dwelling, therefore you can't put an eruv in it. So either Gisa works. You're okay, either Gisa you use, right? The Bei Rabbi Yanai Amrei, in the house of Rabbi Yanai said, what is Tfisas Yad? Even if you have a peg in the guy's house to hang your shoe. I know where you're hanging your shoe on a peg. Maybe it's a snowshoe. But even if you own a peg in his house, that's called Tfisas Yad. Don't have to own more than that. Now, Says the Gemara, Rabbi Bar Bar China Amar Afilu Nishatos. Even if you own a large slab of metal, Afilu Tavla, even a oh, there's another pshat here in the Shosh, I forget what it is. Oh yeah, the Korban brings down the cover of a keli. Even if you own a table, a tablet, that's sufficient. Now, Rav Omar Ubad Dov Shita b'Shabbos Gabi, which can be carried on Shabbos. Now that argues Rabbi Bar. Rabbi Bar was saying about something which can't be carried on Shabbos either because it's too heavy, because it's muktzah. Right? It's either a slab of something which is very heavy, or it's a slab of something which is muktzah, has no particular use. Rav Tzfisas Yad is better if it's something which has a use. Right? Opposite svaras. According to Rabbi Yanai, since you can't move it on Shabbos, it's permanent, and that gives you more of an ownership. According to Rav, since you can use it on Shabbos, you have ishtamshus. You have usage in your friend's house, and that's what gives you a presence there. So different svaras. Amrei Bar Abba said, fascinating Maisa. Maisa be'echad shayu lushal tanigoyim be'ezul chaveru. The guy who owned a chicken coop within his friend's house. So you have to walk through his friend's house to get to the chicken coop. So that's Tfisas Yad, right? Nichna Shalom Mishus used to go without his permission to the chicken coop. Now, chicken coop, though, is muktzah, so it's not a dover anito b'Shabbos. The chickens themselves are muktzah. So according to Rav, how is that valid Tfisas Yad, right? So if the Kumi Rav, so came from Rav, Omar came and Shazok Alita if they might, since you would incumbent upon you to feed them, so therefore, Kemoshu Dover Shnito b'Shabbos, if it's something which you can carry on Shabbos. Meaning, you have responsibility towards the chickens on Shabbos, and therefore it's considered to be Ishtamshus on Shabbos. Now, what's amazing about this more, as Reb Chaim Kanievsky points out, is extreme difficulty with. Tfisas Yad conventionally is only a concept when I'm renting to a house. There's a landlord-tenant relationship. So the landlord doesn't have to enter into an eruv with the tenant, nor does somebody else who contracts an eruv with the landlord have to contract additionally with the tenant because of Tfisas Yad. Because the landlord still has ownership interest in that he still retains objects in the house of the person who is his tenant. But here it sounds like in the way that Tfisas Yad works even with somebody with whom I have no relationship whatsoever. He's my friend. He's not renting a house from me. He's my friend, and I have the right to have access through him to my chicken coop. That suffices, even though I don't have any relationship with him as a tenant landlord. So Reb Chaim Kanievsky has difficulty with that, because again, that's not what Tfisas Yad means. Tfisas Yad means in the landlord-tenant relationship, the landlord is primary, and you don't have to rent from the tenant because it's Tfisas Yad. Not that if I have two people live next to each other, and I own objects in your house, I have to make an heir with you because it's Tfisas Yad. That's not true. So he wants to say, even though it's not explicitly Yerushalmi, he wants to say this way about a case of rental as well. Okay, it's not the case where the guy who has the house through which you walk to get the chicken coop, he rented that house from you. And you don't have to make an heir with him because you have the right of access to the chicken coop. Okay? As says more further, Rabbi Yaakov Shem Shmuel Talmidei Rabbi Yochanan said, not said, Salgan Achbari went to the city of Achbari. The Simon heard the Rabbi Yana, and he relied on what Rabbi Yana said, that even if you own a peg in your friend's house, that's considered to be Tfisas Yad. Chizkiah lo amar kei. Chizkiah did not say that. In other words, he didn't say we can pass it with Rabbi Yana. Rather, El Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Asi, Rabbi Ami, Salgan Achbari. They went to Achbari. The Shalom Midvara to Rabbi Yana, and they inferred from Rabbi Yana's psak that looks like real Tfisas Yad sufficient. But not necessarily that the sufficient Tfisas Yad which we seek is the ownership of the peg. Perhaps Tfisas Yad requires more than that. It's just that they learned that Tfisas Yad is sufficient. Okay? That's why I learned Rabbi Yana. Halachai.
The reason why he keeps the shiur on the peg.
Keep out the scorpions. You're obviously not a Sherlock Holmes fan. What did Sherlock Holmes keep? Let's see. Hey, yeah, Sherlock Holmes. A slipper. What was in the slipper? Tobacco. He kept his tobacco in a Persian slipper, hanging on the wall. Okay?
I read every show on course. I don't remember.
Not as big a bucket as in baseball then. You have to chazer. Rab chazer never. Okay. Haminiach is bebeso. If somebody leaves his house, v'harach lishpos b'iraches, he goes to reside in another city for Shabbos. Echad akum, v'echad Yisrael. Whether the guy is a goy, from which you would have had to skirs for shus had to remain, or the guy is Yisrael, from which you would have to chatzeros had to remain. Harei zoyse might come back on Shabbos, and he's still aser, Steve Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir ain't aser. Once he's gone, he doesn't aser. Rabbi Meir depends. Akum, if it's a goy, aser because he might come back on Shabbos. Yisrael ain't aser. Yisrael doesn't aser. Shein der Yisrael over Shabbos. A Jew is not going to come back on Shabbos. Rabbi Shimon Omer, afilu nechas beisoy. Even if he left his house, only to go to his daughter in the same city, ain't aser. Ray doesn't aser. Hi, maybe he'll come back in the middle of Shabbos because he's still in the same city. He didn't leave town. He might get to fight with his daughter and come back home. No, Shekvari Siyah Libo. You're ready to determine he's not going to spend Shabbos or doesn't answer, even if he comes back in the middle of Shabbos, it sounds like, right? So that's the words about to ask. Adod Rabbi Meir. First of all, this Rabbi Meir is the same as Rabbi Meir's other Shita. Rabbi Meir Omer Abayis, I know, even if I lock the door to a house, which is between our two courtyards, I lock it voluntarily my door to the house. You still can't use it from your side. Why? Because Abayis also because I can open the door in the middle of Shabbos. So it's the fact that I'm off limits now. It doesn't mean I'll continue to be off limits for the rest of Shabbos, and therefore it's not mutter right now. Says the Gemara, what about Yochel Avoid Eruv? Now I cry Meir. What about Rabbi Yosef? Where Yisrael left the city, but he can come back to an Erev Tchumen. He's close enough to come for Erev Tchumen. Or for that matter, of Aruba. What if he transgresses and comes back on Shabbos? In Mechal Shabbos, he comes back. There's more, no Chochmas. Marukum Shem Rav said, in that case, Aloch Rabbi Meir. In that case, even Rabbi Yosef would agree. If he comes back, it asers. It's only as long as he's away that it's permitted, but once he comes back, he asers. Okay. Bavli did. Bavli spoke about the difference whether it's who he was visiting. That's right. Very good. Okay. Yerushalmi doesn't seem to have that difference. The Darkisham, right? Yerushalmi, everybody got along. So Gemara says to the hedge that now it's the opposite. Things have changed over history. It says Gemara to the hedge. It says in Eretz Yisrael the Jews got along with each other. In Bavel they didn't get along. So now we're all Babylonians. All right. Says Gemara, we have a borsha ben shtei chatzeros. Chatzer, bor, chatzer. Now this bor, there's water. Here's the imaginary dividing line between the two yards. So what do I need in order that each one of us should be able to fill up water on Shabbos from the bor? What's necessary? That's what our mission is going to discuss. A bor between two yards, ain't malim men of Shabbos. You can't fill up for it on Shabbos. Unless you made a wall which is 10 tefachim high. Whether it's below or within its within the cavity. Now its lamata would be down here, right? B'toch ogno means it has to come at least down this far, but the rest of it can be above here. Okay, so those are two possibilities. It has to come down actually into the water, or it has to just be b'toch ogno, meaning some part of it has to come into the cavity between the two fields, between the 2 yards. So, Amar Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, Yerushalmi milamata. Yerushalmi says below. Now, the way Korban Eidah explains it, which like the Bab explains it, not the Yerushalmi, I don't know why they're all bringing the Bab here, but according to Shammai, you have to have a wall of tefachim, 9 tefachim which are in the water, and 1 tefach above the water. That's how to make the wall. Milmata means 9 tefachim below and 1 above. Beis Hillel milamala. You can even have it the opposite. 9 tefachim above and 1 tefach below. Right? That's sufficient. Maybe it says the mechitza doesn't have to be any better than the wall between the two of them. In other words, the mechitza can actually start over here. It doesn't even have to be a toch ogno. Tanakama said it has to go into the cavity a little bit, right? Rabbi says it can be just above, and that's completely sufficient. We don't need anything more than that. Okay, Milan to Rabbanan Pli, in the words of the following rabbis argue, Rabbi Shimon Levi and Rav. Now the gears here is a bit messed up. I would change the gears, but it's not necessary. I can make it work. All I need is a shoehorn. Don't need me. Rabbi Yaakov said, Rabbi Shimon Levi, he doesn't hold out the Bablish Pshat. 9 and 1, 1 and 9. He says the wall has to go down into the well, into the water enough to block the bucket going from side to side. How far do you normally put a bucket into the well? That's in order to prevent both using the same common area. Okay? The truth is, what I would have done is I would have put the lower before the Gemara began. Because that's really a question. Aren't they both using one Rishus? And then the Gemara answers there are 2 different ways of understanding what you do. And the first way, which we're explaining, is that you need to have a mechitza, a shiur ulomar, and limalchis me'arbrat. A bucket doesn't go more than 4 tefach in the water. So therefore, how much of your wall has to be within the water? 4 tefachim. 6 tefachim can be above, right? Rabbi Tavloi b'shem Rav said, "Ein churba l'mayim." Water is not like a churba, not like a ruin. In a ruin, there's a locha ein mechitza tluya materes. A wall which is above the ground doesn't work. Has to be within 3 tefachim of the ground. But water is not a churba, and therefore he holds like Rabbi Yehuda really, that the wall doesn't have to descend into the wet water at all. Or maybe not like Rabbi, like Tanakama. It doesn't have to descend to water, it just perhaps has to descend into the cavity, but it doesn't have to descend into the well. A mechitza tluya, a dangling wall, even if it's more than 3 tefachim off the ground, or 3 tefachim off the water in this case, is a valid type of mechitza. Okay? You know what, I might have said that, but the Gemara doesn't say that. I don't think so. The Gemara would say something similar, but I don't think the Gemara says that in the Bible either. Could be you're right, but I don't remember. Okay, so Hayisham Tikra. What if instead of a wall there was a tikra, meaning a roof? Somehow you had a roof structure over here, over the water. So the I would have said without 4 tefachim, but the Reb Chaim says it has to be 4 tefachim wide. Because then what do I say? P-tikra, right. So I don't need a wall because I have P-tikra on each side, which cuts the water on one side off and the water on the other. If it comes down and closes off. And similarly, if there was a kaira, at Rosh Sakili Redis for the stemis, and here too he says to be at least 4 tefachim wide. The problem is I got a problem Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says I need a wall. It doesn't have to go into the water. It doesn't even have to go into the cavity. It could be this wall over here above the cavity, but I need a wall. Well, that contradicts Rabbi Yehuda's own shita, because Taman, Masech the Beitza, Rabbi Yehuda, Amar, it says, Rabbi Yehuda pointed Maim Shemei Mamish. Rabbi Yehuda says, let's say a woman lends a friend water to knead a dough on Yontif. And the first woman had a Tchum Shabbos which went that way. And the second woman's Tchum Shabbos goes that way. So we say, Maim Ben Mamish. Water is not significant, therefore it's not kavua in the Tchum of the first woman. Any other foodstuff or substances, but not water. So we see here, water is not significant, and it can change hands. So if that's the case, what do I care if the water sloshes back and forth? Let it slosh. What do I need a wall for? Just like I can actually give it to another woman, even though my tchum was different than hers. Let it slosh back and forth. And guess what the Gemara answers? No answer. Okay? See, you think like Yerushalmi Tam already. Here he says differently. No answer. Rabuna says, you have to have, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says a kid doesn't have to go all the way down into the cavity, has to go a little bit into the cavity. Okay, it's not answering the question why Rabbi Yehuda requires the wall at all. That's difficult. But the wall has to send a drop into the cavity, even though it doesn't have to actually hit the water. Question how much symbolism is required. Okay. Halacha Zayin. Amas Hamayim. Shover's B'chotzer. Are we, by the way, how far behind are we? 3 weeks? How many weeks behind are we? I have not gotten the new Luach yet. Only goes through Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, but 4 days later.
Should be in Sophie.
Where? Zayin. So we are. We're still almost 3 weeks behind still. Okay. It's going to get worse over Sukkot, but Shkolim we're still within the parameters of what Shkolim will make us up when we skip that Masechta. By the way, don't forget, there's no Yerushalmi blot for Yom Kippur, so we will not fall behind on Yom Kippur. Okay? Says the Mishnah further. Small comfort at this stage, right? Halacha Zayin. Amas Hamayim Shoveres B'chotzer. You have a canal which goes through a chotzer, which goes through a courtyard. You cannot fill water from that canal on Shabbos. Unless it has walked 10 tefachim where it comes in and where it goes out, because otherwise it's porous to Malcolm Asherlo, right? It's coming from beyond the wall, going to beyond the wall, so it must have a wall. Now, of course, this wall is also symbolic because the water flows in and out all Shabbos long, right? But nonetheless, it's a symbolic wall which is essential in order that should be considered to be right now the water of your courtyard. How can you consider it's Ma'isa in Aval, certain place? You can fill up water from it based on the Psak of Chazal on Shabbos. So he said that it didn't have a shiur. It wasn't 10 tefachim deep and 4 tefachim wide, which is a shiur of a canal to be significant unto itself. The more is going to discuss whether that's the precise shiur, whether it's something else, but in a few lines. Meantime, obviously the ratio of the Mishnah is talking about where there was a shiur. So the canal is 10 tefachim deep and 4 tefachim wide, and it goes directly through the courtyard from side to side. Now, what if it doesn't go from side to side? It's only on one side. Only needs lechi or korah. Interesting, we treat the water like a mavli. The water needs a mechitza like a mavli. In other words, the water traveling through needs the same parameters as a mavli traveling through. So if it's only open on one side, so you need a lechi or korah. If it's open on both sides, nice and lechi v'korah mikai, need a lechi on one side. But it's a tzuras pesach mikai, make a tzuras pesach on the other side. Now here says the Gilin Hashas, very interesting phenomenon which we see here. A tzuras pesach over water works. I was always under the impression that it does not. Not always. A few years ago I figured out it did. But this explicitly showed me that it does. No, the tzuras pesach doesn't have to go over a road or over a surface where you can walk through, which you would think is a pesach, but even if it's a pesach for water or for a boat, that's also considered to be a tzuras pesach. Yeah, the Galilee, the Kinneret, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge. What? No, but it's still whatever goes. You're not allowed to go under it on Shabbos in a raft or a boat, but the tzuras pesach over is a valid tzuras pesach.
So within the concert,
Right. Let's suppose you had a lake. A river, yeah, let's suppose you had a river. You wanted to carry in the river. Like Yaakov said, for the water walkers. You right? So that, not convenient for Yoshka. So then you'd be allowed to carry on Shabbos as long as it serves the Pesach around the river or the lake. On the river or the lake. Well, here what's necessary is it allows you to draw water from the river into your chutzner.
Even though the river's coming from outside.
Right. Okay. Says the Gemara, "V'lonim tu shtei rishus b'shtamshus b'rishus ha'achas." Wait, now this is going back to the Mishnah, the Amas Hamayim and Aval. Now the Yerushalmi is asking like this. Everybody has difficulty with the question, but Chaim Kanievsky gives a nice shot. It says in Aval, there are obviously, here's a chutzner, here's a house, here's the Amma, the canal, here's a chutzner, here's a bais. Now these two houses cannot make an area with each other because there's a wall in between the two of them. The wall meaning the riverway, right? You can't make an area between the two unless there's a bridge or something, which there's no bridge. So I asked the Gemara, both of these Rishuyos are using this one Rishus. That's no good unless they made an Erev together. How are they both allowed to use the river if they didn't make an Erev together with each other? It's halacha. Ain't shtei Rishuyos mishtamshus b'Rishus achas. Two different Rishus can't use one Rishus unless they made an Erev, right? So Rabbi Yitzchak said, "Tipatu shubati mitzad echad." No houses on this side. All the houses were on this side, and they all made an Erev together, and that's why they were all allowed to use the Amma on Shabbos. Okay. Pshita Adam Milsa. Now this is Pasha. If it's Amukasar, if the river is 10 tefachim deep, Veder Chavar Baba, not 4 tefachim wide, Mutter Talto, you're allowed to carry within the riverway, within the trench of the riverway, within the channel. Mutter Ma'alos, and you're allowed to fill up from there. Why? Because it's a Makam Tur. So that's the 4 tefachim, it's a Makam Tur. Rechavar Baba, Veino Amukasar. If it's 4 tefachim wide, but it's not 10 tefachim deep, Pshita Shemutter Talto. You're allowed to carry within the trench. Now, that's a chiddush. The Achronim say, I don't know why it's pshita. Why is it so pashut? Maybe it's carmelite, and it's also carried there. But obviously, by water, Rabbanim were somewhat lenient. But the shaila is, can you carry from the trench? Oh, no, that's not what. I'll take it back. I remember. But the question is, can you take from the trench, fill up water, and bring it to your yard? Now, why is there a shaila? Here, we're talking about a trench which is going through your Rishus HaYachid, right? Here's the trench. This is an aerial view. Here's your Rishus HaYachid. Now, obviously, this is all one Rishus HaYachid. So, why should you not be allowed to carry from this trench into this Rishus HaYachid? So the Gemara says, so the way the Mefarshim explain it is because, why it's a question? Because since this is more than 10 tefachim broad, this is more than 4 tefachim broad, right? It's more than 4 from here to here. Even though it's less than 10 tefachim deep, what does it look like to people who look at it? What's the Marisai issue? This looks like a carmelis. It was more than 4 tefachim wide, less than 10 tefachim deep, it's a carmelis. Now, it's not really a carmelis, because it's the middle of Rishus HaYachid, right?
It's open on both ends and it's
No, so they close it. But it still looks like a carmelis, right? So is there a gzera not to fill up water from here to here? Okay? So it says more malu malus. Rabbi Chanina amar mutar, Rabbi Mona amar osir. Machlokas. Masisa pli Rabbi Mona. Our Mishnah is Rabbi Mona. Mona says it's osir, but here it says amalavim neshloya b'kashir. It says that since it wasn't a shear, so they're allowed to fill up water from the Moshel Avil. So it sounds like if it's not a shear, you're allowed to fill up no matter what. Sakurai Mona Aser says more, no, Loisa Mukasar v'lo rechavar ba. Right, Mona answers, that's about case where it wasn't 4 tefachim wide. But where it is 4 tefachim wide, it looks like a carmelis. So then in that case, Taki can't fill up from it. Now I ask one Rabbi Chanina. The truth is it's a question on both. Loisa Avolim. Now there's a couple of typos here. Okay, Moshe, everybody points out. Avolim lo. Should be a word low there. Im loisa mukasar, if it wasn't 10 tefachim deep, and should be v'hi rechav arba, also. If it's not 10 tefachim deep, but it is 4 tefachim wide, it sounds like it's also, right? Now this is a kasha on Rabbi Chanina. Says Mar, no. I feel rechav arba ve'ena mukas, because it sounds like the only reason I make l'namish is because it didn't have the shear both in depth and in width. But it sounds like if it has a shear in one direction, meaning say it's wider than 4 tvachim, even though it's shallower than 10 tvachim, it's also, it's the kasha Rabbi Chanina says mutter. Says Mar, no. No. Even if it's 4 tvachim wide and not 10 tvachim deep, it's mutter, there's no gzeir of karmelis. Hi, we just said the Amon Hava was less than 4 and less than 10. That happened to have been the case there, but that's not necessary. Even if it's less, even if it's more than 4 deep, says Rabbi Chanina, as long as it's less than, even if it's more than 4 tefachim wide, as long as it's less than 10 tefachim deep, we allow you to fill up from there because it's not a separate shus, and we don't make a gzeir that looks like a karmos because it's all in the middle of shus hayachi, and you're allowed to fill up from there on Shabbos. Okay, that's enough for this evening. We will stop here.